Welcome back to Talk of the Town on WHTC, Holland's Cool FM, on WHTC.com, and on the WHTC app for your smartphone. Once again, here's your host, Gary Stevens.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town for this Friday, August 14th. It is the second Friday of the month, which means we catch up with things at Dumont Lake. That is where the Allegan County Services Building is. That's also where the Allegan County Board of Commissioners holds its bi-weekly meetings. And we are joined from Dumont Lake by Allegan County Administrator Rob Sorrow and Allegan County 1st District Commissioner Craig Van Beek. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome back to Talk of the Town for both of you.
Good morning, Craig.
And if you have a question about what's going on in Allegan County, these gentlemen would be happy to answer your question at 616-395-1450. When we do have a chance to have a conversation, normally it's the day after a business meeting. Dare I say routine from yesterday? Because it looked like, unless there was something that wasn't on the agenda, it looked like a couple of good routine matters that was taken care of during the meeting itself, most notably a resolution pledging full faith and credit to Duncan Lake Intercounty Drain Bonds. Explain that, please.
Yeah, Gary, so when there are, lake improvements and whatnot that run through the Drain Commission, and in this case, it involved a multi-jurisdictional area that Allegan County represents just about 10% of. But when they have to put out for a bond for either establishing a drain or making lake improvements, etc., it goes under the full faith and credit of the counties in most cases, because our bond rating is beneficial. And also, some of those districts or lake boards on their own wouldn't have the credit to do it. So, it is paid by those that receive benefit from the particular project, but the initial loan or funding of it relies on the county's credit. And so in this case, we are just a small portion of that project.
In other words, does the county get put for liability on this then, because they are pledging full faith and credit? In other words, you guys are a little bit on a hook for this too as well?
Well, these days I suppose there's liability for just about anything, right? Yeah. But from a financial liability perspective, yeah, you are true. It's kind of like co-signing a loan in a way. We become responsible, but the thing in these kind of situations, there's a direct revenue that covers it, so the risk is pretty minimal, since it's going to be paid by an assessment of those properties that benefit from it.
The other discussion item from the agenda was awarding North Beach access stair replacement bid for the West Side County Park. I'm aware, of course, of the issues that they're having in Laketown Township, replacing stairs, and for the cost of that, having a different type of stairs instead of the wooden stairs. I'm not certain if this is, to comparing apples and oranges in this situation, but, explain a little bit about this stair replacement situation.
So the stairs that were there have become, I guess, in a state of disrepair. And so as we look at that, we want to make sure people are safe and able to access the beach, to the county park. And so that's when they had brought this assessment to us, and we realized the condition we were in. The board took action to be able to get that done as soon as possible, so people can access the beach safely. And so that's our care. We want people to use our county parks. That's the drive, right? Go out, use the parks, be outside, enjoy the weather, enjoy nature. And we want you to be able to get down to the beach and just, as I said, to be safe doing that.
And now the thing is it going to be a case where it's not a like-for-like replacement? You're getting something better so it'll last a little longer?
Man, what was this? We're doing a...
Yeah, this is going to be, the stairs that are there have been there a long time. And so with this being, more up to code and having, materials that are spaced more appropriately to ensure that infants aren't able to kind of squeeze between like the side rails and stuff. I mean, I think there'll be greater longevity. Well, actually, I'll say this: it'll produce longevity, but the ones that have been in place, Gary, have as they say, I'm not sure that they make things like they used to, so to speak. So I don't want to overextend that thought or promise things. The reality is now that we're replacing it, we'll probably put it on kind of like a 15 to 20 year type plan and evaluate it down the road.
Yeah, I know that in the Lake Town situation, it was 30 years before they needing to replace it. I don't know whether or not these will last 30 years, but anyway, the county has a little bit more money than Lake Town Township has, so that's why they had to sort of, do a little, think twice before moving forward with their stair project. If you have a question for Allegan County Administrator Rob Sarr or Commissioner Craig Van Beek, 616-395-1450. Let me get your thoughts on a couple of things that were part of the informational aspect of yesterday's meeting. Reports from the administrator for the medical care community, Kimberly Turcott, and then also a report from the County Medical Examiner's Office, Dr. Patrick Hansma. I don't want to say the routine, but I would think that in both situations, the information they relayed really relays a lot of what this county needs to do, especially with the mental health situation.
Yeah, so the senior care facility, I asked a lot of questions about that yesterday, just the amount of beds we have, the type of beds we have. And then as we look at Allegan County, and currently I think we're 1 out of 5 is 60 or 65 and older. In a few years, it's going to be 1 out of 4. So we realize our county is aging. And so as we come upon that, are we ready to be able to handle that? Or that's when I was asking some questions about, is there a possibility we could add on or to do another facility or to add some different types of beds? Like what are the restrictions with that? And I know too, the state is really pushing the age in place. That's really a thing that they're starting to push, is that they want people to age in place because the cost of care is so high. But then yet we see all over the place that has assisted living, those facilities are normally full. So we understand that there's a need for those. And so that was just some of my questions yesterday to see maybe in the future, could we plan where we could expand that a little bit to be able to serve our county a little bit more for the need that's going to present itself.
Yeah. And then some of the notes, I was looking briefly or glancing at some of the documents in the presentations, and I'm trying to scroll down a little bit with the medical examiner's report about suicides by age, suicides by mechanism, and drug-related deaths and stuff like that. It's been pretty much, we had a little bit more of suicides, just one more than last year, but still, dealing with the mental health situation and, trying to address the needs of those who are taking, considering that last fateful step. The county, I would assume, is doing its part to try to nip this in the bud.
Yeah, as we saw those statistics, those are difficult for me. Gary, now about a month ago, one of the young kids in my church, she just turned 14, committed suicide. And so mental health is something that I poured a lot into, that I've sat on Point's board. I continue to sit on another mental health board for the county. And it's something that we need to start to talk about and to realize that this is a real thing. What was interesting, if you look at the statistics yesterday, was not so much the younger kids with the suicides while they're there. It was some of the older people that commit suicide, and those kind of surprise me. These are the things that I think we need to start to talk more about, Gary, in my opinion, because until we start doing that and start acknowledging that this is an issue in our county and everywhere, we're not going to be able to try to get ahead of it, right? For those people, as you said, those last steps, what can we do? What are the signs we can see? And at times, unfortunately, there are no real signs. People do a very good job of hiding kind of how they are and how they feel in the state that they're in. But through continued training and talking about it, we need to continue to do a better job. Because I can tell you what, doing a funeral for a 14-year-old was not easy.
Yeah.
Seeing someone be there in a family. And so those numbers aren't just numbers on a piece of paper for me. Those are very personal as you read those.
And you're talking about the older ones, Craig Van Beek. We had, last week, it was a week ago, that the noted ultra marathon swimmer Jim Dwyer completed a 22-mile swim from Lake Michigan into Whitehall. Part of the reason why he made it 22 miles was to highlight the national average of suicides among veterans on a daily basis. And as we still, even though we're not, we have conflicts, but, even though we don't have as many veterans as we might have had, say, during the Vietnam conflict, dealing with their issues after they leave from service is still very much a concern.
Yeah, no question. Last year, I was able to participate in a charity function for veterans committing suicide, and it's surprising, it's staggering, the numbers. Some of those people go and they serve our country. They're amazing men and women, and they come back, but they don't really come back. They're not the same, and they have those struggles. And so again, that's one thing, and I love hearing that story. It's just, we need to start to acknowledge that, and that is a group of people that definitely struggle from some of that PTSD and some of those things that they've had to incur and deal with for our country, for us to be able to talk to you today, Gary, right? To have these conversations and to be able to go where we want to go. Those men and women give their lives for us, and then they come back and they have those struggles. And so, it's definitely something that a topic that this county and that we want to continue to highlight and to educate about.
If you have a question for Allegan County Commissioner, 1st District Commissioner Craig Van Beek, whom you just heard, or Allegan County Administrator Rob Sorrow, they'll be happy to answer it at 616-395-1450. Let's double back for a second about dealing with senior care as part of yesterday's county board meeting. That, to a certain extent, sort of underlies the importance of the passage a week ago Tuesday of the renewal of the countywide senior services millage. Certainly a pleasing and a good, strong vote by the county residents that did vote about supporting senior service care and supporting this millage.
Yeah, that was good to see. When you come up and you put a millage on the ballot, we're always on edge a little bit. How do people feel? What's going to happen? But that senior millage, the things that does for our seniors, the services, whether it's the meals, the on-call life alert type thing, having people come into the homes. Some of the people in my churches use those these benefits, and it gives them a break to be able to be that caregiver that's there 24/7 to get out, to do some things, to do some groceries and to do some different stuff. So the programs that they have to support seniors are great. And I really encourage them to continue looking to expand that service and what else we can do. And so watching that, I was hoping that people would still buy into that's a good thing. And those seniors they need those services. So many people really do. And I'm glad that Allegan decided to stand behind that and to continue that service.
Let me bring up a couple of topics that I'm not certain. Well, one of them, I'm not certain whether or not the county has been approached by this. I know in Ottawa County it has been approached by Zeeland Township. They have asked the county to support their efforts in a lawsuit to try to prevent a solar farm from being established in Zeeland and Jamestown Township. Ottawa County is not committing one way or the other on this as of right now. They're waiting for some legal opinions. Has Allegan County been approached by those who are perhaps opposed to what might be going on up in Dorr Township as to whether or not they should support any efforts along those lines? Or is that something that hopefully the county doesn't have to get involved with? I'm not certain whether or not this is something that the county has been approached on at all.
Yeah, so good. There are a number of solar projects going on in the county here as well. We have not been approached very specifically or formally to join in a lawsuit, but we do know that some of the projects have been kind of received and approved at the local level, and some remain essentially contested. How the local unit will proceed into that, whether it's through formal lawsuit or just through the hearings held by the Michigan, Public Services Commission. We're not certain. At this point, the county's position is, perhaps similar to what you've described with Ottawa, where we don't have countywide zoning to sort of fall back on to say that anything's violating a countywide zoning ordinance, nor do we have a particular energy ordinance. The way it works, Gary, is under Public Act 233. When one of the affected local units, sort of contest, for lack of a better term, the placement of that, the provider has to give what they call intervenor funds to the affected local units. And so the direct local unit, like a township, for example, will get a portion, the county gets a portion, and that happens automatically. They have to sort of put that money aside. And so I think that could be part of where that's coming from is maybe questions to use those funds. In Allegan County's case, we would still see those funds being used less likely for any kind of formal lawsuit and more to ensure that, for example, the drain commissioner could look at that site and use those funds if we saw that there was any lack of compliance. But I would say overall, the county board has maintained that these are first and foremost the local unit, matters. We don't want to jump ahead of them, nor do we necessarily want to take those on. But we have been kind of watching the lead of the local units as to when we may sign on or approve into certain agreements and such. So that's where we're at with it.
I'm just, solar panels is obviously Zealand, but also, again, the Microsoft data thing over in Door Township. So it's to a certain extent, it's about the same thing, isn't it? To a certain, in the term between, setting aside land for certain things. I'm not certain. I'm just talking as a layman, I suppose.
Well, the energy-related items are really more under a different. I think they're similar in that they bring about concerns for people. At the same time, the energy projects are governed, like I said, specifically by PA 233. I would say the data centers tend to be a bit more of a land use and resource use and local ordinance type of issue. But just to put it out there, Gary, aside from when you say Door Township, there's a solar project in the works in Monterey Hopkins. There's one over in Northeast County, which may be what you're. That's actually in Wayland Township. That is by Patterson.
Yeah.
There's also one in development in the Pullman area. So like I say, there's a number of different, at least solar and I guess as they call it, battery storage. Projects going on throughout the county that local units are considering.
All right. Just briefly, Governor Whitmer has come out against the dam sale with Consumers Energy and the firm out in Maryland. That includes the Calkins Dam. And I think, we've discussed this before about concerns about keeping the dam going and just the governor's statement perhaps is, again, the county, is not directly involved, but still, that's a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, I read her article and her concerns with it. It was 2-3 months ago, probably. We signed something that encouraged the sale. It wasn't a couple 3 months ago, I want to say. I still feel that's the right thing to do for the Calkins Dam. I see her concerns. I'm looking forward to having a ruling on that soon. That's favorable for those people in Calkins Dam area and for the county. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah, we'll see what happens along those lines, Craig Van Beek. Finally, and I think this might be during the time in our next discussion session, but I wanted to bring this up now. The Allegan County Fair next month after Labor Day. Certainly a lot of festivities and something for the county to rally around.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such a long-standing tradition for Allegan County, in particular, still honoring and embracing the agricultural, aspects of the community. And even yesterday, even though we not necessarily have a board meeting during that particular time, I think the board's still going to try to get together and make a personal visit over to the fair. I'm pretty excited, Gary, that over the last few years, the county's played more of a role in having an actual informational table and booth in the pavilion. And we're just really excited about the amount of, interaction and citizens that we get that are able to ask about services and such. And so we're going to be staffing that table and happy to be part of it. Yeah.
Keep in mind, the Allegan County Fair is like, the Ottawa County Fair and the fairs up in the Ottawa County. It's not a county-run thing. But
that's correct. Or I should say, it's not a Allegan County government thing. There's a totally separate fair board and entity that oversees that. The fairgrounds are not owned by the county government or anything like that. So you're right. It's more of a geographic name reference, but it's not owned or operated by Allegan County government.
Yeah, just straightens.
Don't be fooled either, Gary, because Rob's excited for the beef tips from the.
I can't deny that.
Yeah, for me, it's go and see the kiddie show, but that's another little thing. If you want more information about what's going on in Allegan County, good website, AlleganCounty.org, AlleganCounty.org. First District Commissioner Craig Van Beek, Allegan County Administrator Rob Sarro, as always, thank you very much for joining us today on Talk of the Town. Wish both of you well. And Rob, let's do this again next month if all goes well.
Sounds good. We look forward to it. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
You've been listening to Talk of the Town on WHTC, Holland's Cool FM, on WHTC.com, and on the WHTC app for your smartphone.
We want to thank Attorney Ken Bazicki, along with Allegan County Commissioner Craig Van Beek and Administrator Rob Sarro for joining us today on Talk of the Town. The segments have been or will be uploaded to our webpage at WHTC.com. In the podcast tab under Talk of the Town, you can listen or download at your convenience for free. Thanks to Brian Spencer, What's New Round Holland. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for listening today. Monday on WHTC's Talk of the Town, monthly chats with State Senators Eric Nesbitt and Roger Victory. Following NBC News with Jennifer Kuiper, it will be Lindsay Lawrence's Evergreen Commons Report. For Brian Spencer, I'm Gary Stevens. Thanks for listening to Talk of the Town. Have a good weekend. And let's do this all again on Monday.